And we're back, and we're now speaking with Alexander Nemo of Atlantis Rising, author, psychic, energetic entity, um,
That's
all
a nice
sorts
way
of
to put it.
that sort of thing. How you doing, Alexander?
Hi, how are you today? I'm so happy to be on your show.
Oh, thank you. And I think people are going to be happy to hear what you've got. Um, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, for the first time, a lot of people are probably seeing you for the first time.
It's one way to look at it, and it's sort of hard to miss with the white hair and the nose, but I've been doing readings and working in the field for 45 years. So been around for a while. I've had the privilege of growing up with one or two extraordinarily talented people who are literally walking masters. So what I do with the book and readings is my whole goal is to help people get out of their own way and progress on their own spiritual pathway.
And tell me about your book. What is your book? So if you
Okay, the book is called Magic Beginning the Path. And the reason I wrote it is that, like, after 30 years of working with students and answering the same questions 100 times over, it was just much easier to put it in a book. This way you can say, here's the information, here are the exercises where you can start getting results and start your healing pathway, and just makes life a lot simpler, especially when people get results right away.
And of course, you can find that right away. Remember, like I've always done, we're going to give out the web address where you can get it, alexandernemo.com, right off the bat and everything else. And so, yeah, I think people, especially this year, I think in 2023, we're seeing a lot more interest in magic. You're hearing from various surveys, from various places, that the belief in magic, not the belief in magic, I always say that, but the idea of practicing magic is on the rise.
It's coming back really, really strong again. There was a big resurgence in the 80s, and then it sort of faded away for a little bit, and now it's just back stronger and better than ever, because I think people are ready to take more culpability for their lives and also progress into that higher dimension where they're becoming more or connecting more with the divine spark, so it gives them a little bit more freedom.
Hummingbird ran outside the window. I just heard it.
Okay.
What an interesting omen.
Yeah, really.
There you go, folks. And so you also do like readings and sort of work. Can you talk to us a little bit about your readings?
The readings, I started doing readings when I was about 13 or 14 years old. Now they progressed into either tarot or aura readings or straight clairvoyance, but it's a combination of everything. When people say, oh, what do you do? It's like, it's whatever's needed, really. The readings are always based, or I try to get people to help themselves get out of their own way, because most people are really confused about what they're doing, or they think that life is written in stone. And it's very important that they realize that it's all a matter of choice. But once you have more information, you can make better choices. Just like when people say, oh, I'm always getting beat up. It's like, well, okay, we'll stay out of the crack house and you won't get beat up anymore. People don't want to see the connection necessarily.
I think that's hard for them to see sometimes, and a good reading can absolutely do that.
That's the goal.
And I know that as we come into New Year, I think New Year's is always a great time, to get readings, right for the new year.
No, absolutely. It's a new perspective.
And so on that, but you also mentioned past lives readings, and I'm hearing a lot of people are really getting fascinated by that. There's the public fascination, and I know every psychic always worries about trends, versus like the trends are fads. But I do see past lives readings becoming more popular in the coming year. Can you talk a little bit about what you do?
I think and I really try to stay away from actually doing past life readings, because for me, I have no way to verify that I'm right, except if something blatant comes up. But a past life reading, or giving people the information to start going after past lives, gives them more of a healing potential, or a deeper ability to see where certain connections are so they can fix things. There's a book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Weiss, and that is a awesome intro that turned the whole psychiatric world on its head, when it was written by a psychiatrist who didn't believe in any of this, who then just like blew the doors wide open. Because you're carrying so much stuff from past lives, and many of the things that are going on now are from then. And with that realization, you can start fixing them and not feel like you're broken.
And that's an important part, because people see readings. A lot of people always see readings like for predictions, and the idea of fortune telling, the arts of divination. But a lot of good readings are really healing experiences.
healing experience, or even so many people will come and sit down and say, or after the reading, they'll say, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I thought, but you just verified what I was feeling anyway. And I
Mhm.
needed that extra push." And that's extraordinarily important because it's validation of what a person already knew but didn't want to act on yet.
Right. And so your book, Magic for, if I got it,
Magic beginning the path.
Beginning the Path.
Mhm.
I think that's a hard thing for people to do. So I think a book about that is. Can you tell me, how do you get people to actually start on the path? What is it that you know that they come to you that obviously you've been teaching it for a while?
What's really makes the book extraordinarily good, in my own personal opinion, is that within the first couple of chapters, there's exercises for what's called energy reclamation. And
Mhm.
I've seen people heal injuries that were 10, 20, 30 years old by starting to use energy reclamation within a couple of weeks. So when someone can sit down with an exercise that's simple to do, that they can do anywhere, anytime, and get results right away, I think that gives a lot of credence to the whole concept of energy and magic. Then they have to sit down and say, wow, gee, if that works, that means the next thing will work. And this book helps them snowball into their own proof. It's not a matter of listening to somebody else or what somebody else is doing. It's proving to them that they can do it.
So alexandernemo.com. That's a great book that you can give somebody who's starting and
Yes.
give them a book of healing. And maybe you might be surprised what they become in 2023, given an opportunity to break open some of those limitations. Um,
Absolutely. Because the last thing I want to say about is like people think that becoming psychic is the goal, and it's not. Becoming psychic is the byproduct of you healing your own energy, karma, and psychological damage that's, from God knows where or God's nowhere.
mhm. Well, I think that's always repeatable, that the psychic is the byproduct, not the actual
Goal.
results. I think that's
Right.
important because I'm a big believer that we are uh, s- psychic in our own way. We all have these sort of intuitions. We have all of that. But really, they go, "Oh, I'm not psychic," and you go, "Well." I always talk about what is the number one psychic exercise. I think every psychic is like, have you ever thought about someone and suddenly they called? You know,
Right.
that connection. That's like the most common psychic experience I think a lot of people have had. And
Yeah.
so, but you're talking about if you heal, that connection to those people and people around you are important. And
Oh,
so
absolutely.
and readings. So they want a reading from you, they can go to your site, they can arrange it. But they
Yes,
also
sir. They can.
but you also work, you also can be met in person. And especially a lot of my audience is in Florida, and you were mentioning that you work with a circuit.
Oh, matter of fact, Florida or spiritfestfl.com or spiritfestusa.com. We're the largest metaphysical fair in Florida. We travel through all the major cities. We have one coming up in St. Pete in January 21st and 22nd, but we're all over the place. And there's so many great healers and vendors and craftspeople and lectures and classes. It's just the community is really coming together and coming out and wanting to learn more and make connections. And whenever I write up anything, I always like, come to Spirit Fest and find your tribe, because it's everyone looking for other people to talk to so they don't feel so isolated.
That's interesting. I mean, and I do think people, I think people got a sense of more acute sense through our recent quarantine, through COVID, of what the value of that energetic connection is. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think people are hungry for that sort of physical experience.
Right.
Um,
And it's a lot of, and also on any magical spiritual path, as you start growing up within your own path or within your system, you start seeing and thinking of the world differently. And unless you have other people to talk to, you end up feeling like an outcast, or you think that you can't possibly be right because it goes against what most other people think about the
yeah.
world.
I think that's one of the most important things that it is. So, as you're watching this out there, folks, and you're saying you found Pagan World TV through the Roku channel, or you've done it on what, you're going to find out there's a lot of people out there who do really want to help. And Alexander is one of these people. Now, do you do online readings as well, or are you using the technology to connect?
I've done Zoom, lots of readings by phone. So yeah, it makes my life a lot simpler. I just did a reading for someone in France the other day. So that was a lot of fun because the internet makes it so easy to connect with people. And also just my attitude about readings makes it different. So it's finally getting to the point where people are hunting me down for that getting out of their own way thing rather than, oh, just tell me what's going to happen. It's
I think that's a very important distinction. So people who've had readings, so you're good for, especially for people who've had a couple of readings or even a number of readings.
oh
And
yeah.
yeah, they've already had a lot of those experiences where, oh, just tell me what it is, or they said this, or they said that. And now you're saying you do a much more directed reading if the client desires it. The
Oh,
secret.
sure. And what's really funny is a lot of my clients are other professional readers because I'm not afraid to call them on their garbage. It's like they'll sit down and say, okay, fine, give it to me. Because what are they going to do? Not come back? It's like my job is to help people see, not to like make them, friendly. Here you go.
So Alexander right here is a psychic for the psychics. That's
A lot of times, yes.
that's actually a really good place to be. Or how I phrase it, psychics that other you're the psychic that other psychics go to. There's a lot.
I always tell people I'm really good at what I do because I understand how stupid I am, because I've seen people who are unbelievably talented. I'm like, wow, I'm still like way, nowhere near there. So that humbleness and that understanding of my lack of information or lack of insight yet keeps me always striving for that next step, because I know that I'm stupid.
Fair enough. So let's go ahead and so is there any one thing? So somebody's listening, besides buying the book and your readings, which I want you to remember, people, I want you to empty your wallet towards the community, because why not? If you're going to spend the money, get some things that people really like. And if you have somebody who's wanting to start magic, this is a great book to do so. So, do that. I'm allowed to make the sales pitch. They won't do it for themselves sometimes. So,
oh no, yeah, definitely not.
so that sort of thing. But let me go ahead and talk about it. So if they want to do one practice, just kind of, begin their process, to begin to put a foot on that step. We already told them how to spend the money, but what is it one thing they can do just for themselves that would really help people just start on their step?
I think more than anything else, I'd have to go with like the Zen Buddhist concept or Taoist, where learning to be in the moment of now. In other words, sitting down in one spot and sitting on your patio with your cigar or lemonade or whatever, and just go through the things that aren't happening. It's like, I'm not sick, I'm not hungry, I'm not scared. And as you take away all those illusions and you finally come to being in this moment, people learn to see much differently. So that's probably a major thing, because that gives people a lot of freedom, because all of a sudden they start realizing what they're influenced by rather than really what's actually happening in their life.
That's good advice. I think that, and it's simple. It's a simple one, or it sounds simple. Trust me.
It sounds simple.
It does sound simple, and it's simple to begin.
And the more you do it, though, the easier it becomes. I'm like, you're only going to stay in that moment of now for maybe a couple of seconds. Hopefully the next time you do it, it'll be longer than that. Or if you're being upset or something is trying you, you'll be able to put yourself in and think, wow, I'm out of my moment, because even that realization is really important.
And that's a good thing. So do you have any Yule practices? I mean, I've been asking everybody what they're doing for Yule, Christmas, the holiday. Do you have anything that you do in particular?
Oh my God, for the solstice, I go out and I bake these a lemon saffron cake, which is actually a lemon cake that I make from scratch with lemon zest, and the liquid is infused with real saffron. So it gives you this gigantic aerial hit of energy, antidepressant. It tastes great, but it's an old druidic recipe that I actually remembered. So
wow, no, that sounds delicious. I'm a big
it's awesome.
Cake. I love a good lemon cake. I do.
Yeah, and the saffron just makes it just gives it that extra, yeah.
Rarest ingredients in the world.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't need a lot of it. That's what's nice. It's like for $20 worth of saffron, you can make a lot of saffron cakes.
I bet. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I don't generally think of saffron in cakes. So.
Oh yeah, so it's awesome.
So I noticed. So in the last little bit, Atlantis Rising. Does it have a particular reference to it for you?
With that, I mean, the corporation actually started as a media and printing company, but then as I got more and more back into the community, it's now becoming more and more magical, pagan oriented and growth oriented. I have to pull down the website and rebrand it, but Atlantis, of course, is the overall symbol of that higher level of that growth, that the way things are supposed to be. Of course, before they blew up. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're starting to discover people that there were, there's this whole idea of it on there. So another time we're gonna take on this Netflix show that talks about the ancient apocalypse.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, that everybody's screaming about right now. But there's a it is we're learning a lot about humans and how they work, but equally as much where we're going. I think that is an important part. I think you're really a part of that history, and this idea of being on the path and getting that is a very important thing. So, as I always do, I'll give you the last word. If there's anything last thing you want the audience to know or say?
I think we've covered all the important stuff. It's been a blast, and it's nice and succinct and fast. And I'm just so thrilled to be actually connected with Pagan World TV now.
Well, thank you. And we'll be doing more. I think this is a lot of the areas we're exploring next year. If you have any ideas, feel do. And happy Yule, everybody. And remember, go out and shop in the community. It really makes a difference to everybody. And thank you, Alexander, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ed. I appreciate the